Doc, you've talked a lot about, sleep hygiene and sleep apnea and this. How many people have you heard, or like they come and do this sleep test? What ends up usually happening afterwards? What goes on after?
Well, whenever we're talking about someone who actually has sleep apnea versus insomnia, the sleep apnea is something that most of the patients just are completely unaware of. It's a progression of snoring that tends to lead to patients' metabolism slowing down, so they'll start to get high blood pressure readings in doctors' offices. Their cholesterol will be going up. Their blood sugar might be leading towards diabetes, and we're seeing all of these things, maybe weight gain, and they're saying, why can't I lose the weight? I'm exercising, I'm doing all of this stuff right, I should be able to lose weight. It peeks its head in like that, and I have to ask them, hey, do you snort? My wife says I might snort. Everybody's in denial of these kinds of things, but it's so common to have happen as we start gaining weight. And so those are the things that cue us into the fact that it might be going on. Once we get the tests and we find out, usually using a home sleep device where we're measuring with infrared lights, someone's oxygen saturation, pulse rates, there are little gyroscopes that tell us what position you're in whenever you're snoring the loudest, yada, yada, yada.
Human birth control.
We get that. We get that information and we find out, okay, yes, this person's metabolism is likely slowing down because of this sleep apnea. And we then try and help them to correct that. So what we do is the best treatment is what's called a CPAP device, continuous positive pressure in for the breathing. And what it does is instead of you sucking in air through your lungs with your chest muscles, you are, instead of doing that and pulling your tongue back into your throat and making that snorting sound, whenever the machine senses that you are taking a breath, it then pushes a little gust of air in there for you so that you can, instead of pulling your tongue into your mouth, push it out of the way and get that air into your lungs.
Nice.
Now, a lot of people are resistant to the idea of using these CPAP masks because, I don't want to look like Darth Vader while I sleep. I want to be flexible. I can't take this with me.
Yep.
Everybody has this fear of doing that. The patients that don't really have that fear are the ones that have become so metabolically slowed that they're starting to feel it. And they say, oh, you know what? If I can just feel better, I'll take anything.
Yep.
And usually within 1 or 2 days, these guys feel amazing again.
Yep.
They can't believe what they have gained. Now, there are other devices that can help them with this that can be almost as good as CPAP, and I'll sometimes try and negotiate with patients if they're really opposed to doing these things. And they can be mandibular advancement devices that just pull your jaw a little bit such that your tongue has a lot farther to fall back before it blocks up your throat.
Yep.
And so you can get those made by a dentist, or there are a few resources online to get those done.
Yep.
But that's the sleep apnea portion of this, and if you can get in control of that, that is going to allow your body to have more consistent REM sleep. This is the portion of time during your sleep cycle where your body is focusing on healing. It's taking the short-term memories that you've developed during the day and turning those into long-term memories. It's the place where your body sort of assesses, how are we doing and how can we move forward with this? And so getting someone pretty consistent REM sleep is a good thing to do. This is just the sleep apnea portion of it, and I like the things that you're doing with your clients to help them relax for sleep. There are a few other techniques that we can use similarly, but the goal should be to try and do this with as little medication as possible. Yep. More often for insomnia, what I see for patients is patients will, with all of the stress that they're feeling, very often not really even acknowledge that stress. They'll say, well, I just haven't been able to sleep. I'll ask lots of questions about the stress and what they're going through, but ultimately they may just really be focused on the sleep, thinking that because I couldn't sleep, there is something wrong with me, and I should be able to sleep like I used to whenever I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing. We have so many more things going on in our mind now than we did when we were 8 years old, and it's not this entitlement that we have perfect sleep, and it's certainly not an entitlement every night.
Right.
What the goal should be is to sort of train yourself, as you say, with routines of getting a little bit better sleep. And so one of the things that I do with my patients that's similar to what you do is I have them set a fairly consistent bedtime, whatever it might be, and try and go to bed around that time every night. A lot of people say don't look at screens before bed, the blue screens. Okay, that has been shown to do it, but a lot of people find relaxation in watching TV rather than reading or things like this. And I don't find that the blue screens are as toxic to people as the thought processes that people go through. Exactly. If you're searching on the internet and trying to find answers to things, that active mind process that's going on there is likely to carry over into bed. So there are other things that we can do to try and improve that stuff. So I'll have people trying to find some mindless TV show or something like that. Watch old Seinfeld episodes for the last half hour before bed. You know, don't watch CNN World Report thinking that the world's going to come to an end. That's going to get everybody wound up. You know, I can't tell you how much stress I've been going through.
We've seen his Twitter account. We know it. We know it. We've seen his Twitter. I'm telling you for sure.
Make no apologies for any of those bad
No, none whatsoever. But that's great. That's great, Doc. With that being said, that's really great insight. I love the fact that you're not going down the gopher hole. Doing mindless things is great, and that's an appropriate time to do those mindful things. What else could you tell us?
And you mentioned the word mindful and mindless here in the same sentence, and that's almost poetic. I don't know if you meant to do it, but when it came out, that's exactly what's happening in there, because as we are consciously saying, I want to turn my mind off to the things that have gone on through the day, I recommend, hey, write your to-do list for the next day.
Exactly.
Make it such that you don't have any uncertainty going into it. Uncertainty is one of the greatest sources of anxiety. And so if you go to bed saying, okay, these are the 5 things that I want to do tomorrow to make it a successful day, now you're going to wake up tomorrow and there are no surprises. You don't have to worry about what's going to greet you when you wake up. So do that before you start relaxing for this bedtime. Watch something mindless. You can even read something mindless whenever you're doing this, but I don't want you actively thinking about these things. And so old Seinfeld episodes, old Cheers episodes, some stand-up comics, whatever like that. But turn the lights halfway down in the room. Have night lights on. And you can even close your eyes halfway. I know I'm looking a little bit silly here, but as I'm watching the TV, doing this with my eyes halfway closed, I'm getting much less light coming into my eyes and much less activating sensory perception. Furthermore, the pressure of my eyelids on my eye causes my brain to secrete a little bit more melatonin. Many of you may be taking melatonin supplements. I'll tell you that only a certain amount of that you put in your mouth gets absorbed through your stomach, and only a certain amount of that gets up to your brain. And so actually research studies show that it really doesn't do that much to take those supplements. But if you're doing it like this, the part of the brain that wants it is right next to the part of the brain that makes it. And so it's secreting that for this half hour that you're watching this TV show. If you do yoga classes or meditation, they'll very often tell you to breathe from your diaphragm, breathe from your core. And I often wish that they would use phrases that are actually a little bit more natural to us. You know, I can breathe from my diaphragm, breathe from my core. I grew up as a band geek, forgive me. But I can sit here and breathe from my diaphragm and breathe from my core and blow out a candle, but I don't feel any more relaxed after doing that. But think for me, if you will, what is the feeling you get after you've had a huge Thanksgiving dinner and you just finally get a chance to flump down on your couch? Oh my God, this feels so good to feel like I'm flumping down here. Or you get back from a vacation or a business trip or something like that, and it feels so good to be relaxing in your own bed. You sigh, and you do this naturally. You're breathing from your core and you're breathing from your diaphragm whenever you do this, but you're calling upon your mind and your brain to create these endorphins that say, yes, I am relaxed. And so I encourage patients whenever they're watching these TV shows or relaxing to do this kind of breathing and sighing over and over again. And it really, really brings out that relaxation.
Very true.
After they're done watching the TV show, I ask them, keep the eyes halfway closed, keep the night lights on, walk your way up, brush your teeth. Don't start thinking about anything too serious as you've done this. You've already planned for those things. Sit down in bed, lay down in bed, start to get yourself comfortable like this, and see if you can fall asleep. Let your mind go wherever it is. If it starts going to thoughts of responsibility or thoughts of anxiety or any of those kinds of things, don't get panicked. Just recognize it. It's not that the brain has to be. It's not that the brain has to be completely blank to fall asleep. It's just that it has to be relaxed in these kinds of things. So if my thought goes to, oh gosh, I've got to tell my nurse that whenever Rick shows up, we've got to set up this and set up this, set up this. Wait. That's a thought of responsibility. I can think of that tomorrow. It's going to make sense to me tomorrow. I don't need to obsess about this tonight.
Exactly.
And so what I do is, instead of fighting that, which is going to be evoking more anxiety and more nervousness in me, what if I don't get all of these thoughts out of my head? Instead of fighting it, I divert that thought and I think, what if instead of this, I think about inviting all of my nurses over to my backyard for a barbecue this summer. I think about, and I'm not thinking about logistics of planning it. I'm thinking about a bunch of people mingling in a backyard, a little bit of light music. I think about the jingling of lights above all this. It's a really relaxing picture. And then I think, what if I were to take all of the people at the party for a walk around the block? A very simple thing here. And I picked this storyline because you who are watching this know all of the houses around your block, and it's a very simple storyline. And if by chance you forget it, it doesn't screw up the storyline.
Exactly.
Just think about, what if I were to walk everybody around the block and say, look at that mailbox in front of that house. Look at the garden over there. Look at the house over there. Look at the paint job that they did there. Look even over there and see what you can see whenever you stand on your tiptoes like this. Now, this is just a simple storyline that's very relaxing, and it's in the setting of a bunch of people that you're probably feeling pretty comfortable with.
Yep.
And so you just follow the storyline and feel more relaxed as it's going on. Odds are that if you're doing this, your mind may wander to something else. If I think about the beach that I can see when I stand on my tippy toes, I think, oh, it's been a while since I've been to the beach. Maybe I should plan a trip to the beach, have a picnic in the beach. That's okay. This is not a thought of responsibility. I don't want you to panic whenever you feel this.
Right.
Just notice how you feel and notice how relaxed you are. Divert your thought quickly back to the thought of walking around the block, and you'll probably notice that your mind has jumped ahead 2 houses while you were thinking about the beach.
Yeah.
This is letting you know that you've reached that state of relaxation where your daydream is happening separate from your mind relaxing in there.
Yes.
Feel free and go with it, and know that if you stay in this state of mild relaxation, you're probably going to get enough relaxation and enough rest so that you feel good the next morning.
Yep.
Feel confident with that to go back to, and you will probably notice that those thoughts diverge off into, instead of paint jobs on the house and the mailbox, probably to gingerbread houses and things like that.
That's so cool, yep.
That's exactly what you want, and you're going to find yourself relaxed, and the next thing that you remember in the morning is going to be, I don't even remember.
And that's the nice thing about that, Doc, is if you go to on the Buddhist side, if you go there, that's called walking meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're meditating. And those who say they can't meditate, I'm not asking you to sit still, because this guy's not sitting still, but that's beautiful.
I can vouch for that.
I know, yeah, for sure. And that's the beauty, because what you're doing is you're creating in your own environment and where you feel safe. And that's the first thing about being safe. As a Marine, I need to be safe. As I'm walking around, I'm sitting there like this. I enjoy that. And I do a lot of that walking meditation. I tell the story that when I was in the mortgage business and I'd finished with like a hard day, I would walk around a Walmart and Target and I'd people watch. And as I'm people watching,
Are you responsible for most of those pictures?
I pretty much am. But so as I would walk around, I would see this guy and I would see this guy and I would like look at his face and I would see how he is and just how, and then I would slowly start to like, and then I'd come home and not, Hyper Rick would come home. I'd be like, hey man, how's my kids? How's my wife? And it was a certain sense of shutting it down. And that's how I evolved sleep hygiene. And I started to create a little bit more of that sleep hygiene as it comes through that. But what I love about Doc is he gives you the resources. All right. These are not and then you make them your own. So a lot of times when I talk about Tighten, our motto is Tighten Tactical Transition. That's just tightening up what you do at night. It's not asking you to do anything differently. All it is saying, hey, be a little bit more present in that walking. T3 Body, you guys, is a company and a fitness company that really talks about the complete athlete. When I talk about our motivation inspires you to be better, all right, as a non-for-profit that supports military veterans that suffer from mental health issues, I really enjoy the support you guys are giving me here on YouTube. But again, I am seeking clients on my T3 Body. So if you go ahead and take a look at my website, understand that the intimacy of getting to know you starts with just 30 minutes motivation. So you go on there, you sign up for one of those, you get a one-on-one remote talk with me just like this. Then I encourage you to go and look at one of my training plans, download a 4 to 8 week training plan, and really kind of just test your body, test yourself, and just really start to get yourself ready to then do the next thing, is where you get 4 or 5 of your friends together and dare yourself to be better, where there you have a little bit more of my information along with my training plan. You get some remote sessions with me regardless of where you're at. You notice if you're watching me on YouTube right now, you can hear my voice and I can train you, all right? And that 45-day dare is a great way to just see and challenge yourself to really do the final thing, is become a member. Being a member with me is a commitment, and it's made for just an elite amount of people. So when I talk about membership here, I really talk about a really elite group of individuals who really understand our core values of God, country, family, and really live by and have really adopted where our motivation inspires them to be better. So I wanted to touch on that, you guys, and really use that so that individuals like yourself who are getting better and inspiring others that understand that, you know what, we do need your support to keep everything going.